I'd like to welcome Ron Terjung this afternoon as a guest in our ACSM's Distinguished Leaders in Sports Medicine and Exercise Science series. So thank you, Ron, for coming in. Just wanted to start with a little bit of your background, where you're from, where you went to high school, why you decided to go to college. Were you involved in sports? Those sorts of things.
I grew up in Akron, Ohio. On the east side, went to a little suburban school called Ellet. And later on in the junior and senior year, enjoyed participation in sports, some basketball and football. And out of that was kind of eager to continue to pursue that. There was a small college west of Chicago called Wheaton College.
Oh, of course.
About 1,600 students at the time.
I never picture that as small. I think I've never been there, but
yeah, no, it's
well known.
It is, and they've actually maintained a pretty good heritage of athletics. Mm-hmm. So I played football there and tried to play basketball, but I finally, halfway through the season, I finally got in the last 5 minutes of the scrimmage and knew the basketball there wasn't for me.
No Bob Cousy there.
No, not at all. So I was an exercise science, or at that time physical education major with a math minor. So I was fulfilled certification, mm-hmm. and in fact I taught a year of junior high math.
Oh, wow.
Right out of Wheaton.
Uh-huh. But
then found that I was eager to get on to graduate school. And so I went to the West Coast, to San Jose State, earned a master's degree.
Who was there? What was the attraction there, Ron?
The attraction was my wife really had a very good position with IBM, and they would transfer her, and that provided the support, and that was the means. Indeed, she has been a stalwart of in supporting our family for the last 40 many years.
That sounds sort of like my career too.
Yeah.
Thank you. So you did a master's in exercise physiology basically there at
Yes.
San Jose?
Yeah, with mentor was James Bosco.
Oh yeah, I know.
And
Sure.
then I actually collaborated with John Greenleaf, a physiologist for NASA at the Ames Research Center.
So let me just back up quickly. What years were you in with Bosco at
That would be
San Jose?
1964.
Okay. Was Bosco a Curitin student?
He did come out of Illinois. He did.
That's what I was thinking.
And that's actually a connection with Charles Tipton, which kind of completed the circle.
Because they were at Springfield together.
Yeah. And so the more I learned about the exercise physiology, I certainly always enjoyed the physiology mm-hmm. that I had at Wheaton, mm-hmm. and the learning about the body, and then became more and more fascinated as to how those athletic achievements could be performed, and then became quite interested in continuing, and Jim Bosco and John Greenleaf said there's one place to go, and so I was referred to University of Iowa, Charles Tipton. In '65 I started the graduate training there.
Wow.
Well,
had he just gotten there? How new was that program?
He was his first. I was probably his third student, maybe. Mm-hmm. There were some. Jim Barnard and I overlapped. He was there at least a year or two before me.
Okay.
Ken Baldwin came right after that, mm-hmm. and so I was there for 5 years. It was apparent that to be a physiologist, to be an exercise physiologist, you need to first be a physiologist, and that meant filling in on some basic science that I didn't have as an undergraduate.
More coursework.
So I actually took a year of organic chemistry, a year of physics, a year of physical chemistry, and then that really was the basis to enter into Tipton's program.
No, this was when you were in Iowa, when you got there.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, was there a problem? I guess there wasn't a problem, but taking all these classes that were basically outside of your department.
They were. Yeah. In fact,
was that an issue of
not at all.
basically saying this is what you need to do?
Sure. And in fact, that really is what defined Tipton's program.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was essentially doing double duty through that first year and a half, and then entering into the physiology, endocrinology, comparative physiology, biochemistry, some advanced biochemistry,
Mm-hmm.
special topics.
Well, was the program there connected to both physical education and physiology? And if so, Tipton probably had a joint appointment of some kind?
He did. He did. In fact, so the Tipton did have a joint appointment and sponsored Ph.D. students in technically both programs.
I see.
And
Okay.
so you could get a degree technically in I don't even think the certificates identify this. It's just a Ph.D. from the graduate
from the
school.
university, from the graduate school. It's the way a lot of them are.
And but some of them would be in physiology and some in the program, but of physical education, as they called it then.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the program of what you took, it didn't make a difference.
Yeah, yeah. So you and Booth and Baldwin overlapped.
We did. And in fact, Booth came yet the next year.
Okay.
And so then in the fall of 70,
Mm-hmm.
finished the degree. And in 67, there was just a classic paper by John Halsey that really represents the basis for understanding the biochemical changes or adaptations in muscle. And I was intrigued by that and just eager to be involved in that work. So I approached John Halsey to see if I could be a postdoc. That went down to interview, and as it turned out, Ken Baldwin had the same idea. So we actually proceeded to from Tipton's program to be postdoc at Washington University in St. Louis.
At that point in time, and actually I'm going to talk to John today, 4:30.
Okay.
I assume, maybe wrongly, that Tipton probably introduced you guys to ACSM.
He did.
When you got there. And did Tipton and John know each other then before, do you think?
I think.
Did you guys sort of just discover that paper and sort of pursue that on your own?
No, they would have known each other. I don't know if they had personal acquaintances. They certainly would have had some common
Interests and
for sure interests
Yeah.
and areas of training, because
Yeah.
John Halsey was in the public health service in Champaign-Urbana
I didn't know that.
where he did
before he went to St. Louis.
before he went to St. Louis.
Okay.
So he will
Okay.
tell you that he was there, worked with Tom Curitin,
I didn't know.
and that's where he actually did some very groundbreaking work in lipid changes, lipid metabolism that influenced by training.
So it was 1970 you went to St. Louis then?
I did.
John's?
But back in your question,
Yeah.
I think probably the second year with Tipton, the graduate program, was my first ACSM meeting.
Okay.
And that could have been 66, probably 67. Don't even remember, but
Well, it's real
Good
close
while
to
ago.
that. Yeah, yeah.
and so I've actually been to, I think, every ACSM meeting since,
Wow.
except the one in Hawaii. I missed that one.
Wow.
Don't think there's any other.
I think Booth said his first was 68, so
Okay.
that would probably
I was
put you right
67,
at
I think, yeah.
67 or
Mhm.
66. So.
Yeah. And so it was really a very exciting time in exercise physiology, and so out of the research that you did, it seemed like everything was new.
Mm-hmm.
And so the interest in ACSM was very extensive,
Mm-hmm.
and it became just an exciting society and the national meeting as a forum to present your research and,
Mm-hmm.
more importantly, interact with others.
Did you present a paper early on as a grad student?
I did, and I think I'd have to verify this, probably been on the program every time I've
Oh, gee.
contributed to the scientific program in one form or another.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There may be a year or two that I didn't, but
That's pretty impressive.
well, it's just a natural extension of the research activities I did both in training as a pre-doc, as a postdoc,
Mm-hmm.
and then as a faculty member.
Mm-hmm.
A natural extension of that job description was research
Yeah,
achievement.
sure.
And so ACSM became a major venue for disseminating that research.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we'll get back to that again because I want to ask you about some other things, ESSR and
Mhm.
some other. But so you were 3 years at John's lab,
2.
postdoc, two, and then where?
Then the first position was in the Department of Physiology and Biophysics, University of Illinois Champaign-Urbana.
Oh, okay.
And that was a fantastic opportunity for me. A superb department,
Mm-hmm.
Great perspective in physiology, covering comparative systems and cellular,
Mm-hmm.
and very good. In fact, it arguably may have been the best physiology graduate program in the country.
Mm-hmm.
72 graduate students at the time
Wow.
in the program.
Now, is that when you had your first doctoral students?
Yes.
When you went to Illinois?
That's correct.
Okay.
And that, in fact, that's one neat thing about where the excellence of that environment really did foster career development, and so I
Mhm.
benefited enormously
Mhm.
in that.
Mhm.
And where the first NIH grant came,
That's big. Yeah.
very big, and I was so excited when you get. In fact, I am at any time I find out I have an award, but it always turns out creating that much more work or
Yeah.
effort.
Well, so how long did you stay in Champaign-Urbana?
I was there 5 years, and what preceded led into my departure was the program of the State University of New York, Upstate Medical Center, Physiology Department. Was looking for a faculty member with interest in exercise,
Wow.
which is really unusual.
Yeah.
in medical school.
What town is that
In Syracuse, New York.
in? Okay.
So I sent him my CV and got a phone call right away. Went up there and actually intrigued by the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Leaving an arts and science university, even though the position was in the medical school
Yeah, I see
in
what you're saying.
Champaign-Urbana, the administrative responsibility, committee work and all that, it just isn't there in a small medical school.
Mhm.
And so I had a lot more time for research.
What year was that, Ron, when you made the move to Syracuse?
1977.
Okay.
And was there 20 years. It was a great environment to flourish, good support, and my teaching responsibilities were to freshman medical students.
Mm-hmm.
And then...
It's a basic physiology class, or what?
Mhm. So I actually had an opportunity to, some of my responsibility to teach in pulmonary physiology.
Yeah.
But was able to develop the last 4 lectures in the course on exercise and exercise, the health-related benefits of that.
Mm-hmm.
And something very much appreciated by the students, and I think fairly unique among medical education at the time.
Yeah, we have a guy that does one class in that now
Mm-hmm.
because he's a mountain climber. So
Yeah, okay.
he puts that in the pulmonary class, and the students love it.
Yeah.
So you stayed involved with ACSM, I'm sure.
All of those
that
years,
whole time.
And likewise, the students would have, probably every student I've had would have come to meetings multiple times.
Now, when did you? I remember you as editor of ESSR.
That's
along
right.
the way.
Yeah, there were,
Somewhere. I didn't write down the dates.
I think 3 years. Early on, early 80s, I think.
Is that when it was?
And it was a transformational time for ESSR. And what really made the difference was that ACSM took it on, and sort of the imprimatur of ACSM. And
That's right. Bob
became-
Hutton was involved.
Bob Hutton
That's right. Yeah, I had
was,
forgotten about that.
was very much involved in that.
Yeah.
And because as a great impact it had in different volumes, it never had institutional direction, and therefore it became only as influential or strong as the initiatives of those people taking the reins. And Bob Hutton did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
But he saw the transition to ACSM taking it over. I happened to be in the right place at the right time. I was asked if I would edit, and so set up an editorial board and then pursued getting review articles in the different areas within the domain of exercise science.
Those were great volumes. I
They-
still have a whole section of red
Yeah.
on
I
my
do.
shelf. I continually refer to that.
Although I must say, the recent initiative taken a few years back to go from an annual volume
Oh, yeah.
to the quarterly was superb. It was just excellent.
Yeah.
And so the very timely reviews they have that come out in a regular pattern, they have just been excellent.
Yeah, they're not, the trade-off was, of course, they're not the longer in-depth ones, but
Yeah.
but the real benefit is the timeliness of it, I think. And that's been a very good ACSM publication.
It has. Very nice reviews and very, very well, the production of it is just excellent.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I thought, did John follow you as editor?
Yeah, I think he did.
I think he
Yeah.
may have
Yeah.
in that time. So, when you were in Syracuse, were you able to have doctoral students? It would have been, you'd think it would have been tougher unless you had an MD, PhD
Well,
situation, but I don't know the structure there
they
that
they
well.
did have some the MD, PhD, and there were what are called split-year medical students. They would take a year or maybe
okay.
in combination just prior to entering medical education, end up with a master's degree also. So I
Okay.
had a few of those, but primarily have been pre-doctoral or postdoctoral trainees. And being close enough to Canada turned out to really have been an advantage because, as you appreciate, the density of trainees, institutions and programs in the Ottawa area,
Yeah.
in the Ontario area,
Uh-huh.
is just very good, impressive. And so,
I was in, yeah, they have a great education system up there.
and so there were a number of trainees that came and earned their PhD with me, and have really gone on to have just very nice careers.
And you see them here probably.
I do.
At the
I do.
meetings, which
Yeah.
must be very rewarding.
It sure is.
To see these students do so well. And their students are probably
In fact,
involved.
if you ever what may be interesting in time is to build a scientific
A
heritage
family tree type thing, yeah. I've seen that done with Curitin,
Okay, out of Tipton,
yeah.
and then
Should
in
do
a
that.
combination
Work
with
on that.
Halazi, and so you end up with a third and even fourth generation now
Yeah.
of scientists that.
I
have
think
been-
someone told me that John had like 90 postdocs.
That's
something
correct, yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And I remember I was just in Texas and I didn't know John Ivy had spent some time with John too. So, yeah, I can see where the connections would start to go
Yeah.
over. So, one of the other things I wanted to ask you about was the sort of the state of the college. You've been in it a long time. Some good things, maybe some bad things, maybe. I don't know. What do you see as some of the changes and the good things, and some things that may be going off in a wrong direction? Or do you have any perspective on?
Well, I can.
College
There certainly
itself?
have been changes, and there have been some expansion of the recognition of what is, appropriate research and activities in exercise science. And I can think back early on, even at the time I was in the graduate training. Charles Tipton and Phil Golnick
Oh, yeah.
had submitted a dozen or so abstracts to ACSM that had the animal model-based pursuits of understanding processes and mechanisms of exercise response. And they were all rejected.
When was it? What year was that, Ron, do you think?
I'm going
Was
to
it
guess maybe 68, probably. It was
Okay.
Arizona.
Okay, we could
Find
pinpoint
out,
that
yeah.
very clearly, yeah.
So it just turned out that at the time there was a sort of a philosophical difference in the authority figures in ACSM that believed that the society had to focus on human research
I see.
and
Sure.
that
And not animals.
and not animals as a model.
So that would have been the program committee, I guess?
I'm not
Maybe
sure
the
where
program committee was the board of trustees at the time, I don't.
it could have been. I'm not sure that the seed of that, but that certainly met with a great response, is because one afternoon, after all the sessions were over, Tipton and Golnick commanded one of the lecture rooms, got up the slides, and went through a whole series of presentations as if they were on the program. Had a substantial audience there, as I remember, and turned out to have really brought the focus of animal research and the potential value of what knowledge you can gain, insights, as a preclinical or pre-human basis of information. And so you never heard peep out of animal research after that, and became an institutional part of the program.
So that's all it took, huh? that one event.
That took. There was been a lot of joking about that since.
Well, Baldwin was talking about, studying rat muscle, and of course Tipton was running rats, and Golnick and so forth, and so it sort of all came to a head in '68 by the sounds of it.
It did, and so I'm not. Anyway, it was enough that it just opened up the pursuit, the appreciation of the breadth of the area of exercise science and the quest for knowledge.
And what could be learned from those models?
Well, you're able to certainly potentially control the experiment in ways you could
Couldn't
not
we?
ethically do
With
in
humans,
yeah. And get obtain insights that really advance understanding that then help design appropriate experiments in humans.
Absolutely.
That could confirm that that's really what happened. And of course, right at that time is when the Scandinavians were, particularly Bengt Saltine and Eric Holtman, were using the needle biopsy. And then there were really just parallel paths of inquiry in animal and human work.
Did you ever go over and work in Sweden at all? Or?
I did not.
You did?
I did not.
Okay.
Certainly been there a number of times since, but did not take any sabbatical or time like that. I did have a time off in the Polish Academy of Science for a couple of months. Actually, that was arrived about the day that the solidarity was just declared legal, and
A little celebration.
and they Russia had just put a tank division on the border. So there was a tense time, but yet there was optimism on the part of the Polish
Poles,
people.
yeah.
And what a great experience that was for me. It was just to appreciate the creative scientific expertise of those investigators at the Polish Academy of Science.
That's what I was going to ask. How did their science stack up?
As far as the individuals and their creative aspects of what's really exciting to do and important, very well versed in the literature, appreciate what should be done, but their ability to effect those experiments are greatly hampered by the bureaucratic structure and the absence of support within the system. And that engendered in me a great respect for them, because they actually got enormous things done
With very little to work
with very
with.
little to work with.
Yeah.
And so I came away with an appreciation of the heart of those people, and just what they had to do. I certainly, as you can imagine, came away with a renewed appreciation of these United States.
Yes, I'm sure.
And the freedoms we have. I just could not grasp how simple intimidation of what Russia could do and the communism there, the stripped away initiative, and just the individual pride and the character of the people was just oppressed. So that opened up a neat relationship with a number of investigators that brought a lot of exchange from back to Poland and then back to the United States. A couple of people, different investigators, taking their sabbatical with me. There's a Fulbright fellow that came, and so I probably been to Poland 8 or 10 times since.
Well, before we completely run out of time, we left you in Syracuse.
Sure.
And I know you're not there now.
So,
what happened after that?
yeah, was in Syracuse, just doing fine. Happened to be at a retirement dinner in Iowa City with Tipton's retirement, or at least one of them, and or departure from Iowa. And Harold Laughlin and his wife were at the table, and we were celebrating. And Harold leaned over and said, "What would it take to get you to Missouri?" I said, "Well, if I could collaborate with you, I'd easily come."
Wow.
And I was half joking. He knew it, but yet it intrigued him. He said, "Why don't you just come to Missouri? We think you'll like it." I did, and then moved our lab there. There were postdoc, I think 2 or 3 graduate students that came with me. And the neat thing about being at Missouri is the collegial interaction with just a large critical mass of other investigators interested in exercise, from animal models again to human. And
What year did you go down there?
that was in 1997.
These are supposed to be easy questions.
I know. So that's 13 years now.
Yeah,
So,
time flies.
yeah, it sure does.
So, what department are you associated with, or what's the administrative structure down there?
Sure. I'm in biomedical sciences. Harold Laughlin is the chair. It's in the College of Veterinary Medicine. But anybody who knows Missouri knows it's a university with very transparent walls between departments, divisions, and colleges. So we actually have appointments in the medical school, in what's now medical pharmacology and physiology. And I'm also investigator in the Dalton Cardiovascular Research Center.
So all that's there, the medical schools there, it's all right there.
It's one of 5 or 6 universities in the country that has an ag school,
Yeah.
vet school, medical school, engineering's,
Wow.
law, journalism.
Most of them are separated
They are.
somehow. In my
They are.
own state, veterinary medicine is at WSU,
Sure.
where Phil was, and
Yeah.
we have the medical school, and they're a long way apart. But
So
to
that-
have everyone there together must be
That's really
fantastic.
been an enrichment, and so there are really neat collaborations with people in animal science, for example, developing genetic models in pigs.
Mhm.
So the department, Harold's done a masterful job in both his career and in managing both the professional program and a whole complement of faculty.
Mhm. Well, were you responsible for getting Frank Booth down there?
Yeah, actually, again, it's being in the right place at the right time. After just getting there a year, there was an initiative in the university they were entertain white papers that wanted to take areas within the university where there's excellence and make them world class.
Oh.
So, on the basis of the excellence of the cardiovascular sciences, Harold Laughlin in particular in exercise, and a few others, wrote up a white paper, and we obtained 4 faculty lines.
Wow, that's a
And
major achievement.
It was
Anywhere,
neat. It was neat.
anytime.
Yeah, and 2 of them were to be in basic science, a senior and a junior person in molecular biology and exercise, and then 2 clinician scientists that would be in the College of Medicine. So here's an example, something initiated out of the vet school
Yeah.
ends up filling 2 faculty lines in medicine.
Yeah. Animal, again. You know,
Yeah,
that
animal, human.
Animal,
So-
human.
So we were eager to recruit a superb scientist, and of course, knowing Frank from years back, knowing that he was really successful in his position where he was at the medical school in Houston, would you be interested in moving? And so we bent his ear a little more and had him come up, and I think he again saw a vision that I saw, that this is a welcoming environment that really wants to enrich research in exercise and health, and I think it's really been a good for us for sure,
Yeah.
and a neat thing for Frank.
Win-win.
Very much so.
What year was that initiative, and when you had those 4?
So that would have been funded probably in 78, 79, and Frank may have come in, he's probably been there 9 years now, or so,
No, you.
with us.
What
so
year?
maybe-
98, 99? Is that-
Yes, so I think he came maybe in 2001, maybe
Okay.
2002.
Okay. Well, as I warned you, time really flies.
Yeah.
So thank you so much,
Okay.
Ron. That was really fun. Good stuff.